Today, small and medium enterprises enjoy access to capabilities and cloud services like never before. The next panel brings together industry leaders in global technology, global supply chain, and international trade and promotion to discuss the shrinking world of business and how digital ecosystems are helping to level the playing field for businesses with big dreams. Moderated by Ahmed, editor at the Economic Times. He'll be joined by Mohit Singla, chairman of the Trade Promotion Council of India, Daniel Yu, founder and global chief executive officer of SokoWatch, co-founder and chief executive officer of GlobalLinker, Vakil, and Ahmed Mazhari, president at Microsoft Asia. We'll now join Amol and his panel of experts to better understand how digital ecosystems can help businesses grow.
Good afternoon. Hey, thank you, Sharon, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, each one of you, wherever you are. I'm sure you're going to enjoy this session because the whole world is talking about how to empower the small and medium businesses. Today is the last day of Singapore FinTech Festival, and in last 4 days, everybody, top leaders are talking specifically about how to empower the SMEs. And let me tell you that I'm going to decode the same in this particular panel, which is integrated technology platform powering SMEs, marketplace, financial services, and digital services. So I have four, you can say a best speaker from the fraternity with me are going to share some remarkable insights with me. So allow me to introduce them to you first. My first speaker is Mohit Singla, the chairman of Trade Promotion Council of India. My second speaker is Daniel Yu, the CEO SokoWatch Africa. My third speaker is Vakil, CEO and founder GlobalLinker Asia. And my last speaker is Ahmed Mazhari, president Microsoft Asia. Gentlemen, glad to have you on the show. Okay, so Ahmed is just joining a bit late. I think there are some technical issues, but I will start the conversation, and I will start with Mohit first. Mohit, as you must have seen, that everybody is talking that empowering SMEs is crucial right now because that is the new growth, that is the new engine for the businesses. So if you could tell me how integrated tech platforms can empower SMEs.
Hello, everyone. It's a very, very important question, how tech can empower SMEs. As we have already seen, the fintech platforms have already achieved a global turnover of approximately $5 trillion. And out of this $5 trillion, probably 70% of the transactions are still being utilized in the payments mechanism. So while the banks are creating these platforms which are getting stronger day by day, the current implementation still lies largely in the payment mechanisms in the B2C segment. SMEs, if I talk about India and probably a lot of other countries, a lot of other developing and developed countries, do account for a major chunk of industrial GDP that the countries are producing and are really the backbones of all the entire industrial activities. The biggest problem that I see with SMEs is their ability to reach out, is their ability to talk about their products to more and more number of customers. And I feel that promotion is probably the most expensive challenge that is in front of SMEs at any given point of time. Mm-hmm. What we have not been able to do so far is, while we have very robust, reliable and scalable systems on the technology platform for creating an enabling platform for the payments mechanism, for the buyer and seller to talk to each other, I see a lot of light in the end of the tunnel in the promotional segment. The technology can create a lot of solutions for SMEs to promote their products, to bring out their products to a large number of audience, connect to more customers. More customers definitely means more business. And this is where I see the growth channel for the SME and as well as the fintech segment. The global imports, annual global imports in merchandise itself is around $13 trillion. And if you will add the services sector to it, another $7 trillion more. So $21 trillion business lying ahead of us in overseas exports, e-commerce exports, just for the SME segment. And this is probably the future of how the fintech will be in the next couple of years. And while we have come a long way, created a technology which is very reliable, which is very fast, and of course, thanks to 2020, people have put to rest all the inhibitions on technology usage. They are much more free with technology. They now trust technology much more, and it's probably the starting of a golden era, as I would say. And our
Right.
recent Proxera and the formation of white label platform for business sense borders, it's probably our first baby step to uh, enter into the global e-commerce exports market, wherein
Right.
we can overcome the challenges of SME product promotion, SME exports, also link the minute issues with regards to exports, such as testing agencies, such as logistics, supply chain issues. And also, one must not forget how the WTO multilateral and bilateral regimes have shaped up over this period of years. It's like a complex web of free trade agreements, of comprehensive economic partnerships, of multilateral trade agreements, RCEP, TPIs. All these agreements also bring in a lot of trade concessions. And eventually, what I see is the technology will be able to bridge in all the benefits that are accrued in form of duty concessions. The pricing, the competitiveness of SME is boosted up in a very, very nice manner. So in my personal opinion, technology is the way to go as far as SME exports is concerned.
Right, Mohit. In fact, thank you so much for highlighting many aspects in just one question. Thank you so much. And as we can see, the bright future for the SMEs by using technology. Let me bring here a player who was actually facing a little challenge with technology while joining this. So, Ahmed, could you just elaborate how SMEs can leverage tech capabilities? As Mohit was talking a lot about technology. So, can you just tell me how SMEs can leverage tech capabilities such as clouds and diverse platforms to empower themselves and reach to a next level? Yeah, Samir. So I would like Samir, I would like you to tell us, how SMEs can be more resourceful. How can they, take the benefit of the resources? Since I asked the question to Ahmed, but Ahmed is unfortunately, there is some audio issue. The tech team will try to resolve that. But Samir, if you could speak more on the SME resources side.
Sure. So I think I'll almost step back a moment and talk about SMEs, which really all of us understand stands for small and medium enterprises. But the business dreams that they have for themselves are neither small or medium. They are extremely large. There is no small business that does not want to grow exponentially. And if they want to grow exponentially, we understand that resources are required. And I don't think SMEs could have lived in a better time than today. And going forward, of course. I think resources are more available to them than ever before. We as a startup and just a few years ago are today running on an enterprise grade technology solution or a platform at the back end because we use Azure Cloud Services, for example, from Microsoft. We have access to services that are available on a pay-for-use basis, and therefore affordability and access has improved significantly. Now, at a time like this, for SMEs to be able to grow their businesses and take advantage of the resources, I think the solutions in the form of ecosystems is what is making this extremely powerful. Until now, it was about tools and capabilities, but the moment you become part of an ecosystem, solutions get democratized, you have better access, and you become part of a larger community. And that's really what we are seeking to do with GlobalLinker. And similarly, I know Daniel and others are also doing that. And there are many such communities that are coming together. And what these communities help is build the collective efficiencies and the collective economies of the small businesses themselves. Because once put together, they become a formidable force. And that's really what ecosystems are seeking to do. GlobalLinker today with 300,000 SMEs in 150 countries is an example of that. And when you take that up one notch higher, and Mohit referred to Proxera, for example, that's an ecosystem of ecosystems, which is connecting SME ecosystems together so that that becomes one large global community where the SMEs are able to benefit from aggregated demand and aggregated supply on the other side. So I would encourage SMEs to actually build what I would describe as the fishing rod rather than look only for sources of fish to, satiate their hunger. because there are ecosystems, there are platforms, there are capabilities that are available, and these platforms and capabilities allow them to continue to dream big and remain SMEs only in the term, but over a period of time actually go on to become large corporations themselves in their own rights.
Okay, I think thanks for that note, Samir. Let me check with Ahmed. Ahmed, are you back? Has the tech problem resolved? Yes, go ahead, Ahmed. No, I think I'm still unable to hear you, Ahmed. Let me come back to you. Daniel, I just saw your pictures on LinkedIn and they were really mesmerizing. In fact, very, very, glorious pictures of a purple auto. Okay. In India, we have, black and yellow autos, and, in Thailand also different colors. But you have built this ecosystem of delivering goods, connecting with a lot of SMEs. And, in India, we still have not, sorted this problem of delivering goods within half an hour. But I think you are trying to do that within a day itself. My question to you, Daniel, is this is an interesting work that you're doing with SMEs. How did you actually build this strong supply chain with SMEs, while delivering goods, sourcing from some different source? And, I just would like you to tell us more about it.
Absolutely. So we, of course, have been building out our network now, over 17,000 SMEs, really mom and pop stores that exist across 4 different countries in Africa. So we're in Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, and Rwanda. And really what we're allowing these mom and pop stores to do is order their essential goods, so rice, soap, toilet paper, you name it, and get those products delivered to their shops same day, free of charge. And on the back of that, actually also providing them with financing services to help unlock their growth potential. And in terms of actually building out that supply chain, we've worked directly with both some of the largest brands in the world, manufacturers like Unilever, Procter & Gamble, but also with a lot of local manufacturers in Kenya, Tanzania, and these other countries. And what we're able to do is basically aggregate the collective demand of these 17,000 mom and pop stores and use that to negotiate the best deals and procurement from the manufacturers, and then internally ourselves actually operate the last mile logistics network too, that involves, as you mentioned, autos, and in fact our kind of newest release are in fact electric autos that we've brought over indeed from India, working closely with some manufacturers there. And of course, powered by our technology, which allows us to oversee the dispatch and the delivery, so that we're making sure that each of those shops is getting those deliveries same day.
I think that's quite interesting. I think only the food and the restaurant services are all over the world, trying to deliver the food within few minutes or few seconds. That's what we can think of, or within hours. But I think delivering goods within, just few minutes and hours is going to be a new game change for the SMEs. Mohit, I will bring you back here. And, if you could tell us the challenges that the SMEs face, like Daniel said, that he has developed this and built this supply chain. When you think about building the supply chain, which is very, very crucial for the SMEs, what are the challenges they face according to you, not only in specifically a local community, but also, state to state or, country to country, cross border?
Am I audible?
Yes, Mohit, go ahead.
Ahmed, so in my opinion, the biggest challenge, not just for an SME or a large corporation, for any sort of business entity, is to always stay competitive. If you are not competitive, then you are immediately out of business. The business is so cutthroat, the profit margins are wafer thin, and the moment you run out of your costs, your product becomes unviable for the buyers, and the community is so fluid that there is always a second supplier who's standing there to replace you. So in order to remain competitive, one has to keep in charge of all the variable factors that are going in the background to create a product, which is what you're supplying. So whether it is your supply chain mechanism, the cost related to it, whether it is your raw material, whether it is the delivery time for your inputs and your outputs, whether it is the location of your factory that will define, are you getting any access to any benefits on bilateral or multilateral trade concessions. So keeping your cost under control and also the ability to reach out to your correct customer at the correct time is probably the biggest challenge that any company is facing at any given point of time. And I also feel that technology is the only medium how one can really stay connected and keep on updating yourself, keep on updating your catalogs, updating your product portfolios. Also understanding, keeping a tap on the global market price. So what you are supplying probably at X dollars a unit, and if someone is giving a differential price, whether it's low or high, you can always keep on adjusting your ecosystem and understand. It's like you are watching by your own self how the industry, your peer group is behaving, and you can always keep on correcting yourself.
Great, Mohit. Thanks for that note. And Ahmed, I can see you now. Let me check whether your audio is fine.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you, Ahmed. Thank you so much.
I'm sorry. Look, I'm sorry, folks. I had a 21-hour delay on my flight. So my entire logistics of where I was to be and how I was supposed to log in went through the, out of the window. My sincerest apologies. And it's hard to say why you would have flight delays when there are not enough flights, but things happen.
No worries, Ahmed. Thank you so much. We are happy to have you. And let me, repeat the question that I had for you. We are talking a lot about technology, and hence your views are really, really crucial for us. Can you please tell us how SMEs can leverage the technology? How can they build capabilities? Because now we can see they're using diverse technologies, including cloud and so many other things.
Sure. Thank you, Amol. And once again, apologize for this inconvenience because of my logistical challenges. If you look at SMEs probably form about 2/3 of the global workforce. And we sometimes, and I thought I heard Samir say something quite interesting, which is the only thing small about SME is their name. I think their ambitions are large. The opportunity is even more significant. And the acceleration and the agility that SMEs have in their business model just allows them to experiment more and show more courage. And I often say, the only barrier to adopting technology today is a credit card. You sign on with a credit card and you get access to Azure, you get access to the best technology, you can download apps, you can start to experiment, whether it's a GitHub platform where developers come in and start to work alongside co-developers, or it's LinkedIn where you can go in and network with different enterprises. There is no better time than today than to start thinking about how SMEs become important. Now, just to double click on this topic of SMEs, Philippines, about 99% of the economy in my region is SME driven. And what the pandemic has done is it actually has prompted institutions and SMEs to start thinking about adopting technology in a very significant way, because the ability to consume technology has become very modular, right? You do not have to think about ERP systems, which are end-to-end, complex implementation, high capital. You can look at small applications that can be built, whether it's supply chain applications, or it's CRM applications, or it's accounting or tax. And as a platform, Amol, we play a very significant role in attracting people who build solutions that SMEs can use. The other area that I think about SMEs and their adoption to technology is also about how do you create demand? How do you create demand and access? And we at Microsoft, probably with the largest partner network in the world, play a very crucial role in bringing SMEs to the global world and allowing them to create opportunities which are significantly higher than what they have seen in the past.
I think very well said, Ahmed. In fact, Mohit mentioned about Foxer, and I will come back to it because that is kind of a new initiative, which will create opportunities for the SMEs. And you also mentioned about the opportunities. Let me come to Daniel. Daniel, since you have already built your system, you are already working with the SMEs, I would like you to tell us, how can opportunities be created for the SMEs? How the partnerships can help? Because one individual SME cannot work. He has to deal with a lot of partnerships. So how actually you created that thing?
Great question. So, I mean, I think, the fundamental challenge for SMEs right now, especially on the African continent, I think in emerging markets more generally, is just about connectivity, right? And also about the fact that historically to date, the large incumbent players, whether it's the banks, the large corporate institutions, have really not focused on serving them. And a large reason for that has been the cost to serve and just to reach and acquire these smaller businesses. I think that with the technology that's now available, however, that cost to reach and that cost to serve those customers has dramatically fallen. So whereas previously you would have required a huge physical labor force in order to keep track and serve the needs of a widely dispersed SME customer base. Nowadays, with technology, you can communicate instantly with all of your customers just via an SMS. And from our perspective, I think we've really leveraged the best of both worlds, which is, we do, of course, have on the ground infrastructure and teams through our delivery drivers who are able to provide that face-to-face contact with some of these merchants who might not be as familiar with e-commerce and newer technology tools. But then once those customers are onboarded, provide them with the right kind of digital interface that actually scales and so far has allowed us to reach tens of thousands of these merchants across 4 different countries.
Okay, thanks, Daniel. Samir, I have a very, very important question for you. Nobody will disagree with the fact that technology, is a game changer for the SMEs. But looking at every business model, the fundamentals never change. And for the SMEs, the biggest fundamental or the biggest driver is the credit. Could you please tell us, how can actually technology help SMEs, to raise more funds? How can they access more credit? How can they be more connected with the global world where they can raise, credit and then go for a partnerships?
Yeah, and Amol, I'm going to take two different angles to respond to your question. The first is really for them to adopt technology, because that's going to be the basis for them also to be able to access better credit faster and in a more convenient way. So the first part about technology adoption, I think while we talk about technology adoption, and we've many of us have been in large corporations where a digital transformation would be over several years. It would be a mega project. You would have several resources required and very high budgets. When it comes to SME, digital transformation can actually be in the matter of minutes. And the way to think about it is that the technology complications are all behind the curtain. As far as a small business is concerned, it could become a few keystrokes or a few taps on their phone, and they can actually get their businesses digitized. Thanks to all the efforts of various ecosystems, platform solutions. Ahmed talked about them, Daniel's providing them, and GlobalLinker as a solution offers them. So first is the whole concept of digital transformation, and anything digital being uncomplicated is very important. And two businesses or one business that showed it very effectively is really the radio cab service. So whether it's an Uber or Grab, etc., the person who is at the wheel very often may not be the most educated or may not be completely aware of technology, yet they run their entire businesses on a solution which is fully digitized. And the reason for that is technology has been uncomplicated as far as the user experience for the user is concerned. And that's very important. Now, coming to your question on credit, what happens is, because as businesses get more and more digitized, their business dealings become more transparent and more trackable and traceable. And that's one of the problems SMEs have always had in access to credit, is the fact that they have not been able to substantiate history. They've not been able to show and demonstrate a lot of components that organizations offering credit to them require. Now, turning the digital transformation piece onto the lenders, I think more and more lenders are now going digital. They are adopting to access to this information, whether it happens to be ID systems, whether it happens to be bureau information, etc. As that becomes more transparently available, especially with the SMEs themselves going digital, I think the cycle time, the approval rates, and the responses that people are going to be able to get to access to credit for small businesses also will undergo a change. So I think the most important part is, one, digitization, but along with digitization is not only about adopting a digital way of doing business, it's a mindset change. The moment that mindset change happens, While it will happen for the SMEs and the ecosystems and solutions that are providing these tool sets, I think equally important, the lenders also have to change their mindset, which they are doing. And I think fintechs and banks have demonstrated that in ample measure. I think there will be better times in terms of access to credit for SMEs, both in terms of the time and very often, in fact, what we are trying to do at GlobalLinker is to reverse the cycle. Why should an SME come in and apply for a business loan? Why can't an institution that already has access to that tell them that here is money that you can have? You've got an inventory value of so much. You've just concluded a transaction. You require raw materials to be purchased, and you have the business opportunity to grow beyond your local borders. So here is credit for you to use in this manner. I think that's the cycle we have to start seeing, and that's what technology and digital and the whole movement will definitely have the ability to deliver.
Very well said, Samir. In fact, that mindset part is very, very important. And let me take your views, Mohit, on the same. The whole world is talking about empowering businesses, including the governments. But when you speak about the governments, the mindset change is very important over there. They may talk more about it, but the policy change is happening or not, maybe you are the right person to talk about it. So if you could tell me, how has been the situation for SMEs post-pandemic? I mean, we are still in the pandemic, but how do you see the situation right now after 9 months? And what kind of policy changes do you think that should be done specifically to have a seamless journey for the SMEs to reach to a next horizon?
So Amol, I can talk about India specifically. During the pandemic, I think our business community has been extremely lucky with probably the maximum number of policy reforms that a country can see. I mean, probably this would take 10 years, the number of policy reforms that has been announced by our government that has just happened in past 6 months, whether it is access to more credit, whether it is access to more trade agreements, whether it is banks being more agile in supporting with more money to the SMEs, and so many other sectoral reforms, whether it is mining, textiles, food processing, chemical sector, leather. I think our government has done just phenomenal in terms of announcing more and more initiatives and landmark achievements. The latest one being the Farm Bill. Probably this is the biggest announcement that the government could have made with regards to allowing corporatization of farmers and farmland and aggregation of farm produce. We at TPCI are deeply involved in agriculture, and if one has to see today, a company can aggregate a huge quantity of produce and also sell it in the global markets at a much more competitive pricing. And look at, I'll give you an example of sugar. We were producing enormous quantity of sugar, and we have been producing it for ages now. But our sugar has always been uncompetitive in the global markets, whereas Brazil is always much cheaper than as compared to Indian sugar. But we also have been maintaining a huge stockpile of sugar, but also expensive. So there were so many conditions with regards to MSPs and the way our traditional agriculture has been happening. So I personally believe that government has done phenomenally well in announcing a lot of policy reforms. And there is no better time for a SME to be in India right now, with a lot of concessions on exports, the interest equalization scheme, the scheme on import of capital machinery at zero duty, and the credit rate for an exporter is probably less than 2.5%, which is at par with any developed country at the moment. Whether you are in US or in Japan or in India, it really doesn't make a difference today, thanks to the government's policy initiatives. I feel it is the best time for any company to be in India and to work in India, and also take and utilize India's bilateral tie-ups with the international countries and enjoy the policy concessions. Whether it is about investing in India or it is about doing business in India, I think the confidence is at the highest, at its peak at the moment.
Right, Mohit. Ahmed, we are talking about advanced technologies, emerging technologies, and data, AI, AR, and so many things are there. My question to you is, obviously, Mohit mentioned that India was less hit specifically for the SMEs compared to many other parts. But yes, the supply chain was broken. The global issues were there. My question to you, Ahmed, is how can SMEs specifically avoid the situations like pandemic or unprecedented events by using the integrated technology? How can they be so seamless going ahead in the future? Obviously, first we will pray that there won't be any pandemic, but how can they build themselves so well that the such impact will not have on their balance sheet or a business?
Yeah, it's probably the hardest question that you've asked through this morning. I do want to reflect on something that Mohit said, which is that policy legislations have been significantly accelerated, and what probably got done in 10 years got done in several months. That's true with all kinds of technology as well. Technology adoption has happened at a pace which is unprecedented. Technology is an equalizer, I would say. Technology helps create competitive differentiation, i.e. also it helps you create an opportunity where you can be equal, whether you're a small company or a large company. Think about our Teams platform, right? You do not have to be 100,000 people corporate with billions of dollars to be able to collaborate virtually. You could be a small medium enterprise that can use a platform like Teams and enable themselves. For that matter, Samir's platform, where you create accessibility, the levels of accessibility become easy and equal for people. The other thing that SMEs would benefit from is the ability to create more transparency. I mean, the supply chain discussion that just happened, right? And then I think Mohit made a point about cost and pricing, et cetera. What technology is enabling SMEs to do is to create a transparency, whether it's their demand cycle, their production cycles, their supply chain cycles, pricing cycles, commercial cycles. And what I would encourage all SMEs to do is actually to have the courage to adopt technology rather than be fearful of it. I think, if this pandemic happened in 2015, I'd say God bless us. We would have had a very challenging time in being able to collaborate or be able to access systems and technology in remote places or scale. And all of that has been made possible because we were in 2020 where many technologies had enabled businesses to continue almost as is. And therefore pandemic did shine a light on the opportunities of enabling our experiences, both front end, both manufacturing and supply chains in a very significant way. So my pledge continues to be, if you have a credit card, you can start using technology, you can start downloading apps, you can start experimenting. And look, it is not a capital expense, it's an operating expense. You can switch from one to another. So it provides you agility as well as access equally.
Right, Ahmed. Daniel, I would like you to add more colors to the conversation that we have. And I want you to in fact share a case study with us, because the biggest challenge that the Asian countries are facing today, even in developed countries, is a last mile connection. Maybe you have a great infrastructure in an urban area, but delivering goods at a rural area is still a big challenge, and you are kind of doing that last mile. So how are you doing? How are you actually doing that? Just share one case study with us. And second is, most of the SMEs are also partnering with big giants like, Amazon. Whether, is it a helpful model for you guys, or, it's a tough model to, work with them?
Great question. And I think Ahmed's point in regards to technology as a leveler is also really what we're aiming to do as well. I mean, we want to provide that free same-day delivery to a small mom and pop store, just the same way that a corporate who has tens of thousands of SKUs and square feet of space, would be able to get deliveries on demand as well. And so, for us, I think just to give an example of a case study, I mean, we work with thousands of these Kirana shops, mom and pop stores that are in some of the poorest areas of the cities that we work in, in the slums and informal settlements, and the kinds of cost savings that we're able to deliver to our customers as a result of of being able to get their goods on demand delivered to their store are really unmatched. When you look at these shops, actually, a majority of them are run by women. Often while looking over their children and operating the shop. And when we're able to save them, up to 20% on the cost of their goods, because they now don't have to actually leave their store, travel across town to a wholesale market, buy goods there, and bring them back. They can just order at the tap of a button and get the goods they need delivered right to the shop. That's really life changing. And I think to the earlier point, you'd asked the question about even credit financing to these SMEs as well. For thousands of our customers, we are the first ever partner that they've worked with that's actually given them a line of credit to help finance and grow their business. And the reason we're able to do that is because of the data and the credit scoring algorithms that we built out that allow us to automatically assess the worthiness and the risk of our customers based off the data that we generate through the e-commerce activities. So all of these models that previously would not have been possible because an African bank would never know what a Kirana shop is selling and how much we're now able to do because of technology.
Okay, Daniel. Sabir, now maybe let me shift some gears and speak specifically about the policies. It's very important for world now to create different policies and platforms for SMEs to have cross-border exchange. If we have that, maybe if Daniel could send us some coffee from Africa, and if Samir could send some tea from Assam to him, I think at a more meaningful manner. And if Ahmed could create that platform, I think that would be the world, different world altogether, right? So, to do this cross-border exchange, what is that need to be done, Samir? And also this platform, which is being MAS talking about, for Sarah, how that can actually help such, initiatives.
Yeah, so I wanted to say that what you were narrating sometimes to some people may have sounded like a dream, but the fact is it's a reality. It's real even today, everything that you've talked about. So as a founding member of Proxterra, GlobalLinker is one of the members, and we've got two others over here. And I know everything that Ahmed and his company are doing with Microsoft is also extremely supportive of this. Very quickly, I think, first of all, there are many organizations that are serving SMEs, and they are trying to help them with aggregating their demand and supply elements. The moment these programs come together with a common sort of fabric woven around them, it just throws up the economies even further. So an ecosystem of several ecosystems coming together. I think the important thing is the transparency of information and data so that can get democratized. If all of us can start viewing as SMEs as our stakeholders, as the primary reason for our being in this example, I think it just makes it much easier because technology, the platform and the solution is very much there. And Proxterra is a great example of that, where somebody from a GlobalLinker SME who's a member with us, either in Thailand, Philippines, or India for that matter currently, is able to buy from Africa or even sell to Africa through Daniel's solution over there. So I think we are all woven together with one single fabric, and that's the beauty of what Proxterra does. So it's not a distant dream, it is a reality, and it's happening today as we speak.
Amul,
okay.
Step in. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
This question of yours is probably also of key importance to me. Today, if I really have to sell coffee from Darjeeling to New York, the journey is not very simple. One will require a certificate from the Indian government agency, whether this coffee is fit for traveling to US because of the bilateral agreement between India and US. Then the testing agency at the port will have to give a testing certificate. Before the coffee will leave Darjeeling, there are different modes of transportation that have to be the best one and the cheapest one and the most efficient one has to be chosen. And then it will land in New York at the airport or at the container station, wherein someone has to clear it. And again, a lot of paperwork has to happen. And there will be a duty charged in the US customs, depending on the country of origin. So if it was from India, maybe no duty concession, but if it was from Vietnam, probably a duty concession. So the differential duty has to be applied. In a domestic transaction, it becomes very easy. It's an absolute price, absolute delivery, and just on your zip code, you can deliver your product. But when you talk of cross-border trade and cross-border exports, the factors becomes much more complex. There are so many variables that the technology has to encounter. They have to find the best fit and apply it correctly. So what duty must be, if the duty is not charged at the time of transaction, then your cost becomes uncertain and the buyer might run out of costs. Now, this is what Proxterra will be. In my opinion, if IBM and Apple were born and we had these global giants like Alibaba, like Amazon, who've created changes, paradigm shifts in the overall economy, in my opinion, the next paradigm shift would definitely be Proxterra, because the potential of the business that it can do is $8 trillion. And with your help, I appeal to all the trade channels, all the networks to become a part of this powerful network. And Mr. Mazhari from Microsoft, I appeal to companies like Microsoft and Apple to come with the best of technology to bring this to reality.
Right, Mohit, thank you for that note. And I will, the watch is ticking already, but we'll take quick reaction from Ahmed and Daniel as well. So Daniel, what is your reaction? How important these platforms are? And as you heard Mohit, what is your reaction to it?
I agree. I think it can be a game changer to really unlock the potential of global economies. The African Free Trade Agreement has just come into effect to take what was previously 54 different countries, over 1.3 billion people, and try to move that towards a single market. And I think as more and more initiatives now come online that start to erase some of the barriers that have existed to trade between economies, especially in emerging markets, you're going to need to have the technology infrastructure, the digital rails to be able to power that as well. So, SokoWatch is also very excited to be a participant in the Proxterra platform as well.
Great. I'm sure Mohit will soon dispatch a copy packet for you. Ahmed, your last comment.
Yeah, thank you. I await my dip of Darjeeling tea. But really, beyond shareholders, Microsoft has, from our purpose, which is to enable every person and every organization in the planet to achieve more. Societal progress and inclusive growth is a very important aspect of what we do every day. We will always be a platform company. We will not ever be a retail company, a bank, a transport company, a manufacturing company. Our role is enablement, and we will work with partners across the world to ensure that we create inclusivity across all economic dimensions.
You're not audible, Amol.
Yes, I'm so sorry for this. Wish I could have taken more questions, but the time is already up, and I can see the red symbol here. But thank you so much, gentlemen, Ahmed, Daniel, Mohit, Samir, for sharing, I think, the most powerful insights, and let's see the bright future for the SMEs. So thank you so much for sharing your views.
Thank you, Amol. Thank you, the panelists.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A very insightful discussion there. Thanks to the panel of experts for sharing their opinions, and also Amol for moderating to bring us those key takeaways.